Hi, we got a new app out. I want to do a little intro before we start talking about what the app actually is. So the app is a Haas Effect app. Now the Haas Effect is one of the two simplest ways to get a mono recording to sound like it's coming from the left or right side. I think the simplest way that we're all familiar with if we do recording and mixing is using a pan control. So with a pan control, you have a separate volume for the left and right ears or the left and right speakers. And just by putting more volume on the left side, you have a feeling that the sound is coming from the left. Because if you have a sound source, if this were a sound source on my left side, this ear would hear it louder than this ear. But that's only a part of what gives us a perception that a sound is coming from the left or right side. There's another really important component, and that's the delay. So if I have some sound source on this side, it's going to hit this ear just a fraction of a second before it hits this ear. So we could call that a micro delay. The Haas effect is when we just put a tiny micro delay on either the left or the right channel of audio. And this allows us to take mono inputs, whether it's from a synthesizer that's a simple mono output, or for me, guitars are one of the main places where I like to use this, because of course the electric guitar is always a mono output. And just by delaying the left or right channel a little bit, you get this wide stereo image. And it's nice because it's simple. You're not distorting the sound a lot. You're not messing up the EQ. When it mixes back to mono, it often does a pretty good job of mixing back to mono. If you have to listen to it on an iPhone speaker, for example, it's not going to come out totally distorted because you delayed one of the channels. So this is a really nice way to add stereo effects without really distorting your sound. Now we have this plugin that we call Stereo Lag Time, and we issued that as a free plugin, I think 2 or 3 years ago. And it's got, I didn't see all the statistics, but I saw in the last 6 months, I just checked before this video, it has about 10,000 downloads in the last 6 months. So I would estimate possibly 30,000 people are using that plugin. So it's likely, if you're watching this video, that you're familiar with that. If you're not, you can go check it out, download it for free from the App Store. It's called Stereo Lag Time. However, that's an app that just has one control. It has a delay knob that either delays right or left. It's very simple. It has a good sound, but there are some problems with it. One of the problems is that when we apply Haas effect, especially if we're working with a signal that has a lot of different frequencies, we often don't want the delay to happen on the bass frequencies because you can lose impact and you can lose volume when they sum back to mono. Like I said, for the most part, Haas effect is reasonably safe, either stereo or mono, but in the bass you can lose some things that you don't want to lose. So the plugin I want to talk about today is a Multiband Haas Effect plugin, and it's still really simple, but it's a little less simple than the Stereo Lag Time plugin we have. It's basically 4 of those stereo delays on a 4-channel frequency splitting crossover. So what you get is you can choose how many frequency bands you want, and then you can choose where the frequency bands are, and then you can choose how much delay the left or right channel will have at each band. So without further ado, let's get into the app and let's look at what it looks like and what it sounds like. Before we do, I have one warning. The whole purpose of this app is to make your sound great in stereo. So if you're listening on an iPhone or an iPad or something that only has one speaker, you're going to miss pretty much everything we're going to demonstrate. Of course, you're welcome to listen on that just to hear the dialogue and the explanation. But if you really want to hear what is happening to the audio, you really do need to get some stereo headphones on or listen on stereo speakers. All right, let's do it. So this is the Multiband Haas Effect app. It's got 4 bands. You can turn off the effect for each band. You can go down to a single band if you want. You can add bands. You can adjust the cutoff between bands. Let's go back to 4 bands. And for each band you have a delay control. So this goes up to 250 milliseconds delay on the right channel with nothing on the left channel, or 250 milliseconds left, double tap to reset. Now, typically if we look at studies of human hearing, the stereo perception that we have that comes from the timing delay between left and right ears is very frequency dependent. And that happens because if you think about low frequencies, those waves are moving so slowly that it would be difficult to even detect if there's a difference in timing. Like if we think about the lowest frequencies we can hear is 20 hertz. So at 20 hertz, it takes 50 milliseconds for that wave to go up and down one time. And the delay between your left and right ears is nowhere near 50 milliseconds. I think it's probably on the order of 1 millisecond if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little less than 1 millisecond. I have to go back and check that. If you wanted to check that, what would you do? You'd take the speed of sound, 340 meters per second, and multiply by the distance between your two ears, which is average 18-19 cm, so that's 0.19 times 340, and then you'd get it. Maybe I need to check that math a little more. I never get my math right when I'm talking. I used to be a math teacher, but I always say things wrong when I'm in front of a class. Anyway, bass frequencies are not where our sense of spatial awareness comes from. So typically we don't want to do the Haas effect on this low end stuff. You can leave it on or off as long as there's no delay on this blue channel, you're okay. Now it turns out that the really high frequencies also are not a big part of how we identify spatial location. Although sometimes it may sound nice to put Haas effect up there, the main place where you're going to get that significant spatial effect is probably between, let's say between, I don't have the exact numbers on my mind right now, but probably between about 200 to 300 hertz all the way up to 2,000, 2,400, 3,000 maybe. And what I often like to do is split that really critical band. I split it into two, and then I can delay the lower part left a little bit and the upper part right a little bit. So let's listen to what this does. I'm going to take the effect off first. We'll take it off here. And I'll play some sounds. So this is Zeeon synth. It's great synth. I use it in almost every video. And the output is totally mono when we don't have this effect. Let's kick the effect in. In fact, let's play something and then put the effect in and out. So you can hear right away, there's a, if I put these back to 0, now we've got mono signal, and as we delay the left channel there, you're hearing some stereo. Delay this one too, and now we got a really nice wide stereo image. Let's just for fun, let's have a look at what this does on a Vectorscope. This is an app that we are probably going to release tomorrow or the next day. There it is. Wow, that's nice. Put this one a little smaller and put this one out here. All right. So with no effect, you can see we're in mono, indicated by 100% correlation, 100% correlation between the two channels, and by the fact that the Vectorscope is all on one line. But as we start to add a delay to one of the channels, now there's a difference between what the left channel has and the right channel has, and this Vectorscope is graphing left channel, right channel on the X and Y axes. So when there's a difference, then you see these more interesting shapes. there's a pitch modulation when we change the delays because the delays adjust their delay time smoothly. But once they lock in place, then you see a consistent shape every time the wave repeats itself. So this works, it's really nice for synths and it's really nice for guitars because those are two sounds that often tend to put mono output going out. I don't think I'll do any more demonstration because this is kind of a one-trick pony. Basically, this is what it does. I really love the way it does it. If you want this kind of stereo effect, this is the plugin you want to get. But it's not going to do much else other than this. So if you enjoyed this video, you could help us out by hitting that like button. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit subscribe so that when you're browsing YouTube, if we've got something new, you'll find out about it. And we'll put a link to this multiband Haas effect in the app description, and I'll see you in the next video.